Okay, welcome back to the third session of today's conference. I have the pleasure to welcoming Duncan, founder at Rapid Blue, Adelaide, head of creative and content from Urban Brew Studios, Michael, founder at Afroland TV, and they will be discussing with Reese on the topic financing and funding African content. Over to you, Reese.
Thanks so much again, Shana, and good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are, to everybody there. I know for one of us it's a very early morning, but I'll let him cover that when it's his turn. But briefly, let me give the speakers an opportunity to introduce themselves. Adelaide.
Right, so my name is Adelaide. My colleagues know me as Adelaide Tracy, Stephanie Tandaiga, Stradum, Joshua Hills. It's quite a name. I work for Urban Brew Studios and I'm head of creative and content. We're a content solution company based in South Africa for both local and international clients, and we've been servicing them for over 25 years. We also have two channels, namely One Gospel and Dumisa, which play in 9 SADC countries, and we the full 360. So we've got studios, 8 studios that range up to sizes of 1,000 square meters, as well as a full OB van. And we've got Urban Rhythm Factory, which is our music publishing company, which is fully registered and also has 9 audio recording booths. So as you can see, we are from vision to viewer, the full 360. And also, I think what's important to us and why it's so exciting to be here is because one of our huge strategic points is collaboration, whether it be either on content creators or for studio usage. And also just building the industry. One thing that we did last year was we assisted in getting 300 unemployed youth to enroll in film and television qualifications so that they could have some form of qualifications in the industry. And that's something that's vitally important to us. So it's wonderful being here, and thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you for coming. Duncan, you're not too far away from where Adelaide's sitting.
No, I'm not very, I'm down the road from where Adelaide's sitting. and in fact, we've just finished shooting Celebrity Game Night for NBC in her studio. So we're busy wrapping that at the moment. So I have people going back and forth all day today. Thanks, Reese, and thanks, Adelaide. I'm Duncan Irvin. I'm the CEO and the founder of Rapid Blue. We're a television content production business and been around for I hate saying longer than Adelaide. Let me put it that way.
Long enough.
Long enough. I mean, we produce every genre of content in every format, in every duration. So we're probably best known for all the big sort of reality type television shows. I think most people kind of know us for that, but we produce across everything else. We also produce quite prolifically across Africa. Everything. So we've done shows. I mean, in the last 2 years, we've done shows in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Nigeria, Ghana, so we're producing across Africa. We in addition to in the production area, we also probably best known for producing TV formats. So most of the sort of, I think we probably produce, we certainly produce more formats than anybody else. Let's put it that way. But we also create our own shows. Where in fact yesterday on BBC Lifestyle we launched a new show that we're doing, which is an original, which is essentially a food show with Lorna Maseko. And we also then, so that's our production business, but we also have a couple of other areas of business, the one being hubs and facilitation. So we facilitate a lot of international productions. So we've got a big production hub that we run for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And our clients are, from, all across Europe, predominantly. And they come down here and we film. The show goes out live every night. And we do that for a number of productions, both in scripted and non-scripted. And then an area that does touch on what we're going to speak about today, a big chunk of our business is in the ad funding, brand funding kind of space. So we have a lot of shows. I think on air right now, the one that most South Africans would recognize, or anybody with Netflix, is Family Feud with Steve Harvey as the host. That's a completely ad-funded production. So the sort of funding mechanism is something that we focus on a lot. And so looking forward to talking a bit more about that.
Great, thanks, Duncan, because you're right. I mean, I think that does speak to what we want to get into today, which is how can we make money out of this? Hopefully lots of money, but let's see. But before we get there, let's bring in Michael now. Michael's the furthest away and the earliest of good mornings, I think, now in Texas. What's the time now, Michael?
It's a little bit over 5 a.m. on our side. But I'm up and running. I'm excited to be a part of this panel, and obviously to be joining some amazing people on here as well. As Reed said, I am the founder and CEO of Afroland TV, which is an online streaming platform that makes it easy for people globally to be able to watch African movies and TV shows for free. So we monetize our content through advertising. We actually launched Afroland TV back in 2015, but we were operating in stealth. We were growing our partnerships, obviously getting the right people on board, and we commercially launched Afroland TV last year in 2020. And we have a reach of close to over 60 million people now through our partnership with Comcast, NBC Universal. So we are very, very proud to be bringing African stories to the global stage. Right now, or actually just yesterday, we launched again on another platform called Comcast X1 and Flex, adding us in additional millions of homes. So we're very, very excited to be becoming one of the market leaders in bringing African content to the world per se. And one of the things that we've been experiencing, and something that I'm really, really excited with, because professionally, before coming into this, I am an actor and a producer. And what we are building now at Afroland TV is an original slate. So we've been seeing treatments, stories from all the countries on the continent. And it's been amazing working with these filmmakers. And obviously, we've picked up some things that make titles attractive to be funded. The partnerships working with co-productions such as co-producers such as Comcast, NBC Universal, and other big names along that are interested in the IP from Africa. So really, really excited to talk about what sets content apart, the different processes, the logistics, and so forth. So thank you guys for having me, and this is an honor.
No, well, it's great to have you with us, Michael, because you're going to bring a slightly different perspective, I think, to those of us who work inside the continent. Tell me, the audience that you're looking at, are you looking to take African content back into Africa, or are you looking for the diaspora, or is it both? What sort of content are you after?
So we're looking to take content out of Africa and bring it to the world, mainly into the diaspora here in the United States, in Europe. Brazil is a massive market. That's why you see all the big streamers going into that region. And the reason why is now you start to see African-themed stories start to become mainstream, right? And this essentially, most people would say and agree with me when I say Black Panther opened the doors for so many African creators and innovative stories coming out of Africa. So we are introducing these African stories to the world. And one of the things that always amazes me whenever I'm back home, I was born in Zimbabwe, but I frequently travel to Africa for productions. In 2019, we were in Accra, Ghana. The year before that, we were in South Africa. But every time I'm back home, the theaters are always packed with Hollywood movies, right? We see Hollywood, we even see some Bollywood, we even see European movies. And come to the US, go to Europe, you don't see any African movies available in their theaters. So now we want to, excuse me, we want to even out the playing field, right? We know that we have stories that if they're well executed, these stories are able to compete at a global scale. So we're trying to bring our content to the global audience.
And what sort of formats are you particularly interested in? You mentioned movies, but what about other formats, short formatted, scripted, unscripted? What's the sort of thing that's driving your audiences?
Absolutely. So the market has become very diversified, right? You now have bloggers with cell phone cameras able to record something that people would engage with for hours, right? So distribution has now become democratized, and the type of formats that we're focused on, or the type of formats that we see a lot of traction on. Number one, features. Features are doing great. Feature movies, narratives in the genres of thrillers, action, fantasy, or in Nigeria known as epics, right? Those things are now picking up international audiences, and also co-viewing content that could be consumed by kids and also with the rest of the family, right? Especially animation. Animation is now starting to pick up on the African continent, specifically the big diaspora audience, African Americans here, for example. They love, they now want to teach their kids or to get in touch with culture. Excuse me. So we're seeing a lot of traction when it comes to those specific genres, but also non-scripted, right? Easy watching, laid back viewing. People are sick and tired of scrolling down on platforms, trying to search for content all day. And that's why you're now starting to see a resurgence in ad-supported content, right? People want easy consuming content. I know, Reese, you were talking about Steve Harvey's show. That's a laid back content, right? That's something I don't have to commit so much time to, right? People are consuming this non-scripted content really, really well. And then obviously the aforementioned genres I talked about.
And do you produce these yourself all the time, or do you go to people like Duncan and Adelaide and say, hey, let's work together on this?
We do both. Right? We have a hybrid approach, because one of the best things is that since our content is not distributed globally, it seems like the content is fresh, even though it's been available in the market for 2, 3, 5 years. So bringing it to the Western world, to the diaspora, it's still fresh. So we're able to recirculate older content, which is a great approach. But also, we're in the works of an original slate, right? And building out a slate is so much different from just a single title being produced. So we want to mix up our genres. We have reality, right? One of the most popular shows we have on our platform is called Real Niger Wives of Toronto, right? It's Nigerian women in Canada, right? And people love this show, right? It's easy. It still follows the same procedures as your traditional reality show, but people want to consume. They want to consume titles that are entertaining but also educational, and that's what you get a mix of when it comes to non-scripted shows focusing on the African diaspora as well. So we're producing this action movies, epics, and let me talk about epics really, really quick. Every film industry in the world, you talk about Hollywood, Bollywood, the European industry, they have their niches within their film industries, right? You have Hollywood with superhero films, the European with more of the art, art house type of movies, and then you have the Asian market with the well-known kung fu movies. Africa is going to be known for its epic movies, right? And Nigeria has been leading in epic movies that talk about kingdoms, the fantasies, the kings, warriors, and so forth. And we're making a push on that and telling cultural stories through the epic genre. So that's something that we've been heavily investing in, and we have co-producers from Comcast, NBC Universal, and even some German investors interested in that IP. So we're very lucky to be bringing epics to the world stage as well.
Super, Michael. I'll come back to you in a minute and ask about how you get the money to do all of this, because these are great plans. But I'd be interested to see how you fund it. But before we do that, I was just going to ask Adelaide, when you're looking at content that you're going to produce yourself or get into partnership with, how much of an eye do you have on the international market and its international saleability, as opposed to just thinking about something for the Kenyan market or for SSA more widely?
Well, it's amazing how things have changed, because before it was really about, okay, who's in our market, what's our LSM, who are we trying to cover? And now the kind of buzz around, even with the broadcasters, is that we're creating authentic African content, but it must have global appeal. And everything we do, I think now with the change of mindset is with that in mind. So when it comes to the type of content we create, when it comes to the type of funders we're looking for, everything has to, you've got to think global. And we've got to get out there and do that, because at the end of the day, I think that, you know, the world used to be, you were in South Africa and America was a dream away, and now it's an email and a WhatsApp and a Zoom conversation. So the reach is, the world's got smaller. And yeah. I think it's wonderful for us as creators, because now we can actually, our dream can become a reality of getting our stuff out there, but it's got to have global appeal. And I think our universal stories do. So a lot of people are coming to Africa and looking for our stories. So it's time for us to tell them authentically, but make sure that they do still have that global appeal, so that they sell in the markets internationally.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing, Duncan, you probably would agree with that. I'm just wondering what influence that has on the way you look to fund productions. This globalization, does it change a fairly traditional model of, in the old days, a linear TV station commissioning something from a third-party production unit? Now, the power balance has changed, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, the power balance has absolutely changed. And I think, you know, we've seen with the streamers coming into Africa already, you know, things have started to change, you know, which is fantastic. I think that, but I also think that, the more kind of progressive linear channels are also are embracing the change. You know, I think we're seeing a lot of them being less draconian or restrictive about the kind of deals that you can do with them. Because, which is fantastic, and also that they're that they're also, you know, that they're also open to pursuing better stories, better quality stories, and better quality production, and that's exciting. I mean, I think, you know, as producers, you know, we're always coming up with stories, and I think for us, you know, we're always looking to get them away. So we'd have a look at, you know, sometimes you might look at a linear broadcaster who's looking for something that's hyper local, and, you know, and we're happy to make that for them. We'd love to make that for them, but we then know that it won't travel, you know, it is just too hyper local, and that's fine, you know, and that's great. So also it's not, we're not limited by anything. But what I do love is this slightly more almost entrepreneurial kind of approach to funding and getting good content. And that's been very exciting for us. And as a result, you know, just everything from kind of co-productions to, you know, sort of blended funding kind of models, to windowing strategies so that two different platforms can, you know, be involved in the same product. All of these things are avenues that we're pursuing with projects and have, you know, and that's great. We're getting good quality product out. I think our thing, and I think for most producers, the one thing is there's a line in terms of the kind of quality of product we want to make, you know, so I don't think any of us are that desperate that we're going to just make anything, but it's an exciting time.
But how does that hybrid type of funding model work, where you've got a mixture of sources of funds? I mean, I think you were saying the other day that the days when there was just a single source of fund have been and gone, and now almost everything you do has got a mixture of input. It could be from an advertiser, a sponsor, it could be commissioned by a network, could be anything. How do you control all of that? And do you control it, or do you get controlled by a conflicting? I mean, once upon a time, it was a fairly singular bilateral discussion with the commissioning network, and now you've got a whole team load of people in the room who are tipping in their 10% or 15% of the funding, but have got a different requirement.
Yeah, look, and it does get harder, you know, I mean, I always say it's exponential, you know, so when you have 2 partners, it's, you know, it's twice as hard, but when you have 3 partners, it's, you know, 3 cubed, it's 9 times as hard. So there is a level of complexity that just is exponential. But Look, I mean, I love a single funder. I mean, I think we all love a single funder. I mean, we'd give our left arm for just a one-way relationship. We make a great show for one person. And that still does happen occasionally, but it's rare, now. But no, in the blended, I mean, I'll give you some examples. I mean, we're involved in everything, from on the scripted side, from co-productions where you're essentially having two an African-based and a foreign-based broadcaster coming together working on a single product, and then you're trying to plug in potentially some DTI funding and package something up that way. I mean, that's pretty traditional. It's been done a lot. DSTV are doing some amazing things. I mean, we can see some of the big successes they're having in that space. And that's a well-trodden path, easy, and not easy, but it's there and it's being done, and many projects are being lined up. We're doing projects where, for instance, we'd have a linear Africa broadcaster with a streamer in a windowing strategy. We have I'm working on one at the moment, which in fact has got a linear broadcaster, streamer, and some ad funding and some DTI, and those start to get really, a little more complex, but totally doable again. So these all, they're just.
If you're starting out now, Duncan, if you get rolled back the 27 years and you're kicking off all over again, where would you go as a budding producer? How would you approach getting some money to bring your ideas to fruition?
Wow. It would start, I think it would start with a story. What is it? Is it scripted? Is it unscripted? Where would it start? And then I would think about who's the most likely candidate for this product. And I would start there, because generally that's how it happens. I will look at this and I'll kind of go, look, this is a real strong linear product. Let's start there. I'll speak to them. I'll say, look, this is what I want to make. They like it? Yes. This is how much money I need. They go, we don't have that. We've got this. I'm going, don't worry about it. I can close that out, and then.
But linear's still got a space for you. It's not social media rules. Okay. And now linear is old world, probably black and white.
No, I mean, linear's still got a space for me. I mean, particularly in the ad funded space, because they have the reach, they have the numbers. So in that space, I mean, you're delivering particular audiences, and that's where, particularly from a brand point of view, often it makes most sense. But I mean, I'm just flowing with linear at the moment. But I mean, we've got many projects where we've started with streamers. We've started with a mobile platform. We might, I mean, we might even start in social, and then, and have a look at whether we don't treat that as a pilot episode or pilot series and something that we can grow and then take, into broadcast. There are many different, I think you really just need to think about what is it I'm doing, and who's the, who do you believe is the most likely, kind of candidate for the story. And most generous broadcasters will tell you, if it's not for them, they'll tell you, and most generous ones will tell you, I really think this is where you should take it and what you should do with it. So if you're a newcomer, ask those questions, get that advice,
Yeah, I mean, we often in these sessions have questions asking, really, is the game over? Is social media going to rule okay? And for the rest, linear and DTT and will all just disappear slowly but surely. But asking that question a different way, if you're looking to make money, and maybe Michael, you've got a view on this as well. I mean, if you're looking to make money, should you be focusing on social media and then as your primary target, and then filling in with the rest later? Or is linear, all the other distribution channels, are they all still equally valid, as stronger?
So traditional media is still the strongest when it comes to generating profits easily, right? And we should use social media as a calling card per se, right? When we started Afroland TV, 90% of the content that we brought onto the platform, we found these filmmakers on YouTube, right? They were getting the attention, they were getting the exposure on YouTube. But we know that social media does not generate as much revenue for the filmmakers to continue telling these stories as traditional media, right? Because we bring it to our platform, and now these filmmakers are able to earn more advertising dollars than they would on YouTube if we were to compare and say, let's say each platform had 1 million advertising impressions, right? So we're able to monetize content much better from a traditional aspect. So for filmmakers, right, I would suggest that when you're wanting that exposure, when you're wanting to get into that door to talk with funders, to talk with us and so forth, it's really easy for you to get into our doors. Just email us at treatment@submissions@afrolandtv.com. Right, but getting into this room with people interested in funding these IPs, right? They want to see a proof of concept, right? They want to see pilot, right? That's the other way of calling it. And social media is a great way to utilize this. And again, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars just to make it happen. One thing that social media has done really well for our industry, it has shown us that you don't have to have top quality production for your story to stick and for people to engage with your story. Look at what these influencers are doing on YouTube. They're running around with cameras and just recording their days, right? With shaky movement, nothing is polished out, but people are consuming this content, right? We're in an age where now distribution is democratized. So don't overcomplicate this, right? Don't overcomplicate this and say, you know what, I can't produce this story because it needs this and that, it needs all this other things. That's overcomplicating the situation. Just get something up, right? Let us see some execution. And that is the biggest thing. We want to see execution from the filmmaker side, right? It's one thing for you to send us a treatment, but it's another thing for you to send us, hey, this is a concept trailer that I shot, right? Just for you to get a feel, because when we invest in content, we are looking for partners, right? We want to work hand in hand with the filmmaker, because what we don't want to do is to come in and take over the story. We still want our stories to be authentic. So we want the filmmakers to be ready to go, to have a vision, to understand exactly what they want to shoot, to already have a list of or information on who the cast is. And one thing that we will help them do, because not a lot of filmmakers are good at doing this, is discussing the distribution plan for a specific title. Though we do have a platform, we're still working with windows, right? We want to make sure that we effectively use these windows to maximize the revenue we are bringing in for content. So I hope that answers the question.
No, absolutely. I just want to take your view on it as well, Adelaide, because being head of creative and content, are you 100% behind Michael's idea of, look, don't worry too much, as very old British comedy show, never mind the quality, feel the width? Do you adopt that approach with what you're doing? Would you advocate that?
Look, I think that if you're starting out and you're getting there, I mean, it also depends on where you are, because if we had to put out something that had terrible quality, they'd never go to Urban Brew again. So, so if you're starting out and you want to tell your story, yes, I do agree with Michael. Just get it out there. I think the one thing, though, that is quite exciting that I've noticed with some of the broadcasters here is they're starting to do enterprise development productions, where they taking people that are new in the industry, giving them an opportunity because they've got the great idea, but partnering them up with bigger companies. We're doing 2 productions at the moment where we have to upskill the smaller producer and make sure that they understand all the stuff, the admin, the cost reports and all of that, but helping them. And the nice thing about it is that the production is in their name. It's not in our name. So they're already getting that history and having that behind their name, but we there to catch them. And it's on the broadcaster side, it's to also help them know that they're going to get their product. And with the producer, we're building them. So I think that when it comes to creating content, for me, it's just about making sure that the linear platforms do understand, to Duncan's point, that it is all about coming up with new models and not being stuck in models from before. And as a producer going into the industry, I think it's also such a good idea to see if you can get your ideas out to other production companies that could co-produce with you. Because a lot of the times they might have the connections, they might have the relationships, and that might just be what you need to get you further. So as well as trying for yourself and trying to get out there, sometimes, especially if it's a first go, a collaboration always works really well, because once you've made a name for yourself and you're established, then it becomes a little easier for you to get out there.
Mm. So when you're looking not just at your own business, but the industry in general, where do you see the new exciting areas cropping up now for production companies? Where would you be steering yourself, say, in 5 years' time?
Look, I think that I had to think about it when we were kind of going through this. And when you look at new opportunities, I think the fact that there's treaties, the fact that there's commissions, advertisers, government funding, all those things, they aren't new. I think what the new opportunity is, how do you strategically pick and mix and approach all these entities differently and come up with ideas for them, and don't be afraid to go, well, could we not try this? Because who knows whether your idea of a funding model could be something that catches on and becomes the next best thing. We working a lot with all of our productions, and I'm sure the same applies to Michael and Duncan. Everything has got the potential to live on different platforms. And I think that's another thing, is the sponsors and everybody's looking for the next best thing. So when you creating your idea and you trying to go out there, think of how you can be the disruptor. How can you offer something that somebody else isn't? Because the moment you go into some place and you might be a newcomer and you're going, but this is what it can do, and they can see how they're going to be a disruptor. I mean, we had a company in SA who did a wonderful campaign where they took a series, which historically drama series sit on linear platforms, and they chopped it up into bite-sized content and played it out on WhatsApp. And all of a sudden, people were going onto WhatsApp to watch this movie, that the series that had been created, and it got great success. And I think it's looking at your content and seeing, how do you take it and then take it to a level where you can kind of be a disruptor? How do you get people's attention, like Netflix, Amazon, Apple? They're all coming in and they want African content. So if you're going to give them something, but look for what makes it different. Because once you get the funder to buy into that, I think then you become the new opportunity.
Yeah. Michael, have you got a perspective on that? And particularly thinking at the moment about people who are still regarding the African continent itself as being their target audience, not so much the worldwide audience. Does that type of mentality work, do you think, within Africa?
Yes, I do believe it works, right? I'll say this: the industry within the next 3 to 5 years is going to shift towards fast channels, right? That is free advertising, streaming. I always lose the meaning of the acronym, but it's called fast channels, right? New acronyms are coming every single day within the industry. But these fast channels, what they are is, think of your traditional DSTV channel, right? Being able to access that on an online streaming platform, right? On your mobile device. This is going to become the shift, and you can always predict where the industry is going, specifically starting from the West, right? You see it happening in the West, and the fast channels are growing tremendously, right? We have content averaging $15 per CPM. Right, this is thousands of advertising dollars because of the reach. The African continent is a massive continent, right? It's 1.3 billion people, right? The fastest, it will be the biggest working force by 2030. That's why you see these big streamers, right? Because they know, number one, Africa has the numbers, right? And the advertising model is going to be a juggernaut on the African continent. That's why everybody's moving to it. For example, that's why you see Netflix opening up their platform for free in Kenya. They want to see what the usage is like on their mobile devices. So fast channels is going to be the future for the continent, in my opinion. But also with this, right, what filmmakers can take out of it, what we are looking for, because we operate fast channels as well. what we are looking for in fast channels is niche content, right? So if just go and study these fast channels that are available, right, and see which niche falls within your filmmaking style. Make content for who you want to distribute this content to. For example, we have a kids channel that's going to be launching pretty soon, right? If you are an animator, then you can approach Afroland TV and say, hey, listen, we have this content. We believe it'll be great for your fast channel. You want to come into these meetings with investors, and obviously I'm talking about us as a streaming platform as well, with a goal, right? I want you to understand our business model and the different divisions we have, because if you sit down in a meeting and say, I believe this is going to be good for your Afro Kids fast channel, we're going to sit there and say, we do need content for our channel, right? And we do need to build that library. So the fast channels is definitely the way the ad model is going to continue to grow, right? That's something that's been a little bit, of a seesaw on the continent, is just how to monetize with ads online. But that's something that is increasing.
Duncan, do you concur with that? I mean, the issue with advertising has always been being able to monitor that within the continent, because outside of South Africa, mostly, if you're particularly on linear, you've no idea whether your content's being watched or not. Obviously, when you're talking about OTT, it's a different story. But do you go with Michael's view of the future?
I absolutely do. I mean, well, I think in the sense, particularly, so the fast channels, Michael, I had to Google it. So that's the free ad supported channels. So,
well done, you get the prize.
So we would, because I was intrigued, I haven't heard that acronym before, but I mean, we throw around AVOD a lot, in the sense of ad funded video on demand, which is, I'm guessing the same thing. So everybody's talking about, the massive battle of the streamers and the attrition that will happen, and I think that's going to happen. And I think the bigger streamers will probably shrink down to a smaller group that are the premium kind of guys. But what I completely agree with is I think that it's also fragmenting in the sense that we are going to find, this proliferation of sort of smaller kind of niche opportunities. We're seeing it in the mobile guys are trying to kind of elbow in there and try and find their space, in terms of their own kind of content platforms. And I think that, free-to-air channels, essentially are free-to-air anyway. So, and I think as long as they can kind of hang on to their audiences, which is their big challenge, that model will continue. So I think in that space, and I think that the beauty with a capitalist kind of system is that price is always going to be moderated by demand. Supply and demand is always going to kind of hold price in a particular band.
But there is a market at the moment that you can participate in. I mean, at one stage, not that long ago, it wasn't really a market. You were pushing very hard as a producer, desperately trying to find somebody to take your content. Now it is more of a trade. There are more people on both sides of the fence wanting to do a trade.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Michael touched on, there's also different kind of strata. So there's the group that are always going to want it to be first, original, exclusive to them. Then you get a next layer down, which is that they want it to be first and original, but it doesn't necessarily have to be first for them. That's the windowing strategy. Then the next layer down, you're finding more and more platforms that will take something that's either out of license or it's out of window. So it was made, produced, broadcast on a linear channel somewhere else. It's run its 2, 3, 4, 5 year lifespan on that, and is now free and available again. And that can be repackaged and can be placed somewhere else. I think, that's the sort of next level down, and these strata keep going, so and to your point, I think there's just a lot more opportunity. I think where we were maybe 10 years ago, there were literally just linear channels and essentially DSTV. Those were your choices in Africa. Now there are a lot more opportunities with different platforms, with different needs. And so it is easier. However, I think don't underestimate the fact that people are desperate for content. there's also a lot of content around. So you've got to have great, you know, in the end, you still have to have great content, or you've got to have a really clever kind of model in terms of how I'm going to repackage this, you know, how am I going to respin this that it's, you know, it's going to attract an audience. And
listen, man, you made it sound really complicated to me, because it used to be that what we needed was just a producer who was just an artist who had these great ideas, bit of a dreamer, smoked some funny stuff, and out came a great product that he or she wanted to be able to take to market. Now it's a real business. It's a commercial business. So if you're a production house, you need somebody like you or Michael or Adelaide at the front of it. It's no use being an artist. You've got to be a businessman. And if you're not, you've got to hire one. Would that be a fair assumption?
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, gone are the days where 15 years ago, if you had a great idea and you went to the broadcaster, they would literally hold your hand. You know, they would produce for you. They'd do all the deals, the contract, you know, I mean, they would hold your hand through the process. You just had to make a great show. Those days are gone. You really do need the creative with the producer, you know, and the producer really needs to understand the business of television.
Thanks, Duncan. It sounds like you've still got a job then, Adelaide. Would you, is that a job you recognize?
Yes, and I'm very grateful for that. But I just think, you know, just from my side, don't stop trying. I think that's just the whole thing, because I mean, if anyone knows, this industry can make you feel like, oh my goodness, I should have been a lawyer or a doctor or a something, and you want to throw in the towel. But I think it's just that whole thing about just not giving up and knowing that, because now there's so many opportunities. Yes, it's still the long game. There's so many opportunities. I think now more than ever, we need to collaborate. We need to work together. How do we build up our own, whether it's our businesses, our continent, and our industry, because we've got a lot of potential. So, you know, this is such a wonderful time. If COVID showed us anything, it showed us that we can get through stuff and that we find ways of making things work. So how do we take this new kind of constantly changing digital evolution and change with it?
Yeah, indeed. Michael, I'm going to leave the last words with you, just to sum up your view of life. And particularly, you know, when you're looking at this, what sort of genres are the big tech streamers looking for? And therefore, is there a place for low budget productions?
Co-viewing content is the number one genre. And what I mean by co-viewing content is content that can be consumed by the whole family, right? Not rated R, rated mature. Co-viewing content, and number one, it has a bigger audience, right? It can reach far more people. Imagine if my kids, your kids, my cousins, everybody can watch this film and enjoy it. And that's why Marvel is so big. So number one, focus on genres that focus on everybody, right? And one of the things that we have seen a lot, and this is something I recommend to our African creators to change, is get away from the rape narrative, right? Because we got so many submissions regarding this specific topic, and I get the importance of it, right? But we need to be more innovative and creative in our thinking. And one company that I love in terms of just developing crazy ideas and crazy stories, and who's doing it great, is Netflix, right? For example, the show they brought on from NBC, which is Manifest, right? Think about these wild, crazy ideas, your wildest imagination, stories you have. Bring those to light, right? Don't just focus on stories that previously used to work for African filmmakers, right? So co-viewing content, which is content that can be consumed by the whole family. And absolutely, low budget productions can still work, right? As long as you have a good story. Focus on this story if you know your budget is low. Focus on the story, right? What is the climax, right? Is it easy to follow the lead character? The lead character must always have a mission, right? The lead character must always have something that the audience is going to stay captivated and engaged with him or her. So yes, low production stories can still compete, but with low productions, know who you're going to distribute it to, right? Know the windowing strategy, and that usually starts with the AVOD platforms, with the fast channels, right? You want to get exposure. Your first project should be able to open doors for your next project.
Super. Thanks very much, Michael. It feels like we've just started the conversation, but according to the clock, we're just finishing it. So thank you very much to everybody, particularly Michael, Adelaide, and Duncan, and to all of you who've been joining in from wherever you've been seated. Have a good day going forward. Michael, go back to bed, get some rest, and we'll see you all again soon. Cheers.
I will
Thanks
say
so much.
one thing. If anybody wants to submit content, submit it at submissions@afrolandtv.com.
Consider it done.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.